Hey everyone! Today we're diving into the latest updates on Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet. Recently, Neil Druckmann sat down for a podcast with Sony and shared some really interesting insights about the game. Now I've gone through that interview, picked out the key points, and I'm going to break down everything you need to know. Plus, I'll share my thoughts on what this could mean for the game, Naughty Dog's future, and how players might react. So stick around till the end because there's a lot to unpack here. One of the most intriguing things Druckmann talked about is how this game explores themes of faith, religion, and isolation. He said that the game takes place in an alternate history timeline where a unique religion has emerged and evolved over time. He also mentioned that Naughty Dog spent years crafting this fictional religion, from its original prophet to how its teachings have been twisted and reshaped over generations. The entire religion exists on a single planet, and at one point, all communication from that planet suddenly stops. You play as a bounty hunter who's chasing a target but ends up crash landing on this mysterious planet. The core of the game seems to revolve around figuring out what went wrong here, what happened to the people, what the history of this place is, and what this religion has become. Druckmann also emphasized that he wanted to create a feeling of loneliness and confusion. He pointed out that many previous Naughty Dog games have had you accompanied by an ally, whether it's Sully in Uncharted, Ellie in The Last of Us, or even side characters in Jak and Daxter. But in Intergalactic, you'll be completely alone. That sense of isolation plays a huge role in the story's atmosphere. Now, that's a bold move. We've seen games nail this kind of lonely tone before, like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Hollow Knight, but for Naughty Dog, this is uncharted territory. Another interesting detail Druckmann mentioned is how he's drawing inspiration from games like Half-Life and From Software's storytelling style. Now, for those who don't know, From Software games are notorious for their minimal hand-holding and environmental storytelling. Instead of spoon-feeding you the plot, you're left to piece things together yourself by exploring the world and connecting the dots. Druckmann has said he wants players to figure things out on their own in Intergalactic, which is a huge shift from Naughty Dog's traditional cinematic storytelling. Personally, I find this fascinating, but also risky. Naughty Dog's strength has always been in their character-driven narratives, where you're emotionally invested in the journey. Switching gears to a more cryptic, player-driven style could either be a refreshing new direction or leave some fans feeling lost. Now, this part really stood out to me. In the interview, Druckmann joked with his team that after all the controversy with The Last of Us Part 2, they decided to make a game that people would care even less about, a game about faith and religion. While that's obviously a joke, but there's some truth behind it. The Last of Us Part 2 was incredibly divisive. Some people loved it, while others absolutely hated it. So tackling another controversial theme like religion is a bold choice, and this is where I feel things get tricky. Exploring religion in any form is delicate, especially when it's woven into a fictional narrative. Some people might admire Naughty Dog's ambition, while others might see it as provocative or even disrespectful. It's a fine line, and while I respect their creative freedom, I can't help but wonder if they're walking into another storm. And this leads to another major point Druckmann discussed, the risk factor. He acknowledged that Naughty Dog is in a unique position. They're Sony's powerhouse studio, expected to deliver massive hits like Uncharted and The Last of Us. Every project they release faces enormous pressure to sell millions of copies. Druckmann admitted that they're aware of the potential backlash, but they're still willing to take creative risks. While that's admirable, I do think they need to be careful. Upsetting your audience with back-to-back controversial themes could alienate a huge chunk of fans. Now, Druckmann did say that he believes this game will resonate differently because it's a new IP. Unlike The Last of Us, there's no established fanbase to disappoint and no iconic characters to risk ruining. That gives them some freedom to experiment, but there's still a fine balance between pushing boundaries and maintaining mainstream appeal. Honestly, I'm both intrigued and cautious. On one hand, I love when studios take bold creative risks. Druckmann's vision of blending themes like faith, isolation, and a cryptic narrative could create something truly special. But on the other hand, I can't ignore the risk that this might be too much of a departure from what Naughty Dog fans are used to. If they can deliver a world that's engaging to explore with a deep, thought-provoking story, it could pay off. But if the narrative feels too vague or the pacing drags, it could end up frustrating players. In the end, I'm optimistic but also a bit wary. Naughty Dog has built a reputation for incredible storytelling, and Intergalactic. The Heretic Prophet seems like a major shift in both style and theme. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you excited for this ambitious new direction? Do you think this risk will pay off, or are you worried Naughty Dog might be straying too far from what made them successful? Let me know in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss future updates. I will see you in the next one.